Ascent with the Goblin Squad.
So you started hitting me with Everest stuff, and I had a week.
You did.
Or two at a fun time.
You did.
Life's interesting. So
being an adult is the worst sometimes.
It's fun. But I had gone back and forth with a couple topics. I was looking at giants at one point.
You threw me some curveballs.
I want to get into that, but I was just like, where do I go? Ancient Sumer, the Anunnaki.
I know. I was like, what's happening?
The Niflheim. It was.
You were like, what do these 6 things have in common? I'm like, I don't know.
And I was like, if I do this topic, I couldn't hone in on one thing, and I was like, it's going to be 5 hours long. And then the overwhelm of life, I had to set it down. And then I was telling you about that commissioned artwork thing that I saw on the Tim Tams of a ceiling made out of beetle exoskeletons that are bright green, and they will always be that bright green due to something that's within the shell.
Chitinous shell.
There you go. See, I knew you would know.
That's why you keep me around.
Yeah, it's Yeah, millions of beetle wings in Belgium. It's called Heaven of Delight. And it's a ceiling onto a chandelier, and it looks like bright velvety green. And it's all these repurposed things because they're like delicacies throughout like Malaysia and like Thailand and stuff. So they were all just like art. And then I went on a weird rabbit hole on that topic. Wasn't sticking. So
you're like, this isn't the vibe.
I was just like, I can't
beetle
do
shells.
anything.
Beetle shells are for another. Chitinous shells.
Well, it just felt like random, and it didn't make sense with Everest at all.
Everest, beetle shells. It all comes together.
Not. So I go to my dear husband, and I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, I need something with mountains, right? So he tells me immediately.
No hesitation?
First thing he says, I'm like, I need something with mountains. Look up the Dyatlov Pass. And that's where the journey began.
You know the irony of it, though? You sent me, you heard of a little place called the Dyatlov Pass.
Yes.
And I skipped right over that message in our chat. Didn't even see it. Went on to the memes. Right? And then later I was like, what the hell what are you recording about? Yeah. And you were like, did you not see? And I went, oh, scroll back. And then I went, God damn it. Not the Dyatlov Pass. Because along with the Bermuda Triangle, the Dyatlov Pass was one of my most hated supernatural things when people try to make it.
Well, because there's certain things where it's like, no, and we'll get into it.
Yeah. So without spoilers, I was like, oh, no.
You're like, son of a bitch.
And then I went, maybe.
I feel like, I'm going to throw it out there. You can tell me how you feel at the end.
Okay. Because there's a lot I don't know.
You'll be cool with the conclusion of how I'm going to bring this together. Okay. I feel like you'll be like,
I get it.
Okay. So, the Dyatlov Pass incident.
I just got the shivers.
The Soviet Union, winter, 1959. A 23-year-old engineering student from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, or UPI, assembled a group of consisting of 9 fellow students and peers for a 200-mile cross-country skiing expedition through the Siberian wilderness.
Seems great.
He was great. His name was Igor Dyatlov. Foreshadowing.
Oh, God. It didn't. Why is his name on the pass?
We'll get there. The original group was made up of 8 men and 2 women, all experienced mountain climbers and skiers. The journey began in the early hours of January 23rd, 1959. The team boarded a train headed for the Ural Mountains, middle Soviet Union. On the train, as they got deeper into the Siberian taiga, the following entry was made in the group diary. I wonder what awaits us on this hike. Will anything new happen? Bum bum.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
The journal entries.
Today. Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, what is that?
Oh,
Those poor sweet children.
yes. They're all with, aside from one, in their early 20s, from like 21 to 23, 24.
Which begs the question, how experienced were they at mountaineering?
Right.
I have questions.
Right.
I mean, you were in your 20s.
They're at the institute. But
Are
mean,
you
if
an expert at anything in your early 20s? Maybe.
I mean,
it was a different
with
time.
skiing and whatnot, probably more than most.
They lived in the Soviet
the tundra
Union.
of it all. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was rough.
So I guess more experience than like if you were to ask like some me, for example, I'd be like, no,
No.
hard pass.
I said no.
After the train over, the next few days, they went from bus to truck to horse and sleigh. And then eventually on foot and ski. On January 28th, only 5 days in, one member of the group, Yuri Yudin, there's going to be a lot of Yuris
Prepare yourselves.
in this. I will differentiate them.
Okay.
And I am going to apologize in advance for the blundering of Russian names, because some of them, there's a lot of vowels happening. Lots of K's next to V's and M's.
Forgiven.
So, sorry. On January 28th, though, Yuri, he had to turn back due to knee and joint pain. Again, he had a touch of the rheumatism. They said their goodbyes, and the remaining 9 hikers continued on. This was the last time Yuri would see his friends alive. Their group documented the entire experience. They kept journals, took pictures, which made it possible to track their route up to the day preceding the incident. Despite it being cold as fuck, they all
So cold.
they all seemed to be in good spirits, smiling and laughing, enjoying the trek across the mountains. You can see in the pictures, they are like young college kids. They're all goofing off like they're giving like noogies and shit to each other. Like, it's 59, you know.
The pictures are very jovial.
And that's what makes it like hurts more for some reason.
It
'Cause
does.
I'm like, they're so happy.
They're real people.
And they're just like doing a thing that they all obviously enjoy. And it's just like, fuck. So, cut to February 1st. That day, the group was making their way through what is now known as the Dyatlov Pass. When they were hit with heavy winds, snow, making visibility next to nothing. The inclement weather pushed them off course, and they ended up on the east shoulder of Kalat Sayakal, named by the region's indigenous people, the Mansi people, translating loosely to Dead Mountain or Silent Peak.
I don't like any of that.
And while it sounds very ominous, you'll appreciate this. It is called that by the Mansi people simply for lack of game being on that mountain.
Oh.
Dead Mountain.
There's nothing on there.
So I feel like a lot of people don't say that in all these.
They're like,
spooky
the
videos.
Death Mountain.
Yeah, it's just
and they're
been
like, there ain't no
like,
food.
You ain't gonna hunt on this mountain.
Yeah, there ain't nothing here.
Because shout out to Sonia. What are the Mansi people? Reindeer herders. What up, dog? Yeah. So, the last photo of the group alive shows them in deep snow with no visibility, like barely. You can see like vague gray shapes around them, digging out a platform for their tents on the slope of this mountain. The final entry in the group's journal reads, "It is difficult to imagine such a comfort on the ridge, with shrill howling wind, hundreds of kilometers away from human settlements." And then nothing.
So they weren't necessarily uncomfortable at the time, right? Like they were in their tents and they had provisions and they had all their stuff.
Yeah, they're writing in the tent.
Like, we're trapped in here. We'll just hang out.
Right? It's hella windy.
Been there.
We can't see.
Been to the BWC and
Yeah.
be like, I played cribbage for 4 hours. I can't
I'm
play
making do.
any
They got
more
their little
cribbage.
stove and shit. They're like bacon and shit. Yeah.
Huh.
So now, throughout the trip, the group had sent postcards and letters to family and friends telling them, about everything
We all
going
good.
on. Right? You're like, oh my God, so fun. Like, I saw this thing. Yeah. Before departing, Igor Dyatlov had even agreed that he would send a telegram to their sports club as soon as the group returned to Versailles. Whereas we started watching a little program, weirdly enough, before we came up here. Expedition Unknown happened to be doing an episode on Dyatlov Pass
Tonight.
which was super weird because
Yeah.
I thought the Commodore planned that.
You thought it was all queued up, and then
Yeah.
and then
He's
I
like,
was
"No,
like,
it's just on TV."
So weird that it's on right now, and you went, what? And he said it's just on live television right now. This is just playing. We didn't plan this. And then
So
we both
weird.
went, ah!
So fucking
No.
weird. It's like,
No, haunted mountain ghosts.
no. So, before departing, though, right? Igor, he had agreed he'd send a telegram out when they got back. So Versailles, that was the last inhabited settlement where they started their trek from. So, like, before they get on foot and skis and everything, that's the last little village. It was expected that this would happen around February 12th. So that's when that guy was, waiting for the telegram. Everyone's good. But Igor told Yudin, the guy with the bad knees,
Yep.
that he thought it might take a little bit longer. Just given weather and give us a couple days, lag time. So the 12 passed, no immediate reaction.
People are like, oh, well, they're delayed. Bad weather.
Right, yeah, shit happens. On the 20th,
Oh, God.
however, the hikers' families demanded a rescue operation.
Somebody get the fuck out there.
Where are my kids?
Yeah.
Like they're young.
They're their 20s.
Yeah, except for one. We'll get to him. The Institute sent the first groups, volunteer students and teachers.
What? They
And-
couldn't send anybody more qualified than
And
that?
then later, the police forces got involved with planes and helicopters.
Okay.
So
That's right,
again,
because this is 56.
yeah,
So they
59.
had... Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
59.
Yeah. So again, but still kind of interesting things going on in the Soviet Union during this time.
Yeah.
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 So on February 26th, almost a month later, right, a search party finally located the campsite. And it was obvious that something had gone horribly wrong. The tent where all 9 of them slept, 'cause they're all in one big old tent, was destroyed and under a thin layer of snow. It had been cut open from the inside. But there wasn't any sign of a struggle. All of their gear, their clothes, their food were neatly stacked within the tent. There was even a meal set up to eat, but was left untouched. Like there was like cooked ham and bacon and shit, and their stove had been like disassembled. Like they had just like made food. The 9 campers weren't in the tent. So all their stuff's there, and it's just like collapsed and cut open, and the ski poles are still like standing up, and there's like a thin layer of snow over it. The next day, 9 sets of footprints led the search volunteers down the slope towards the nearby woods. The prints were shallow and evenly spaced, suggesting the group was moving calmly and walking. So they weren't like sprinting away from the tent or anything. It's evenly spaced. Their tracks were weird, however, because they weren't made by people wearing boots,
No. What?
but they were made by socks or bare feet
What?
in sub-zero Siberian wilderness.
What?
Talk about frostbite.
Okay. That's strange.
The tracks led into the forest edge before disappearing under the snow. At the edge, under a large tree, And I've seen conflicting reports on this, so I'm just saying a large tree. Because I found that some people were like, it was a large cedar tree. It was a large pine. And I'm like, what the fuck does the type of tree matter? It was a tree.
Under a tree.
It's not important to the story. The search team under the tree found the remains of a campfire, as well as the bodies of the first 2 victims of Dyatlov Pass. Krivonashenko, Yuri, and Doroshenko, also Yuri, it's their John, were found shoeless and dressed only in their underwear and light shirts. Krivonashenko had blackened fingers and third-degree burns on his shins and feet. Even weirder, in his mouth was a chunk of flesh, his own that he had bitten off his right hand.
Okay.
Yup.
Okay.
The branches on the tree above the fire were broken up to 15 feet high. There were also scraps of clothing within the tree, suggesting that one of the hikers had climbed to look up, at something, perhaps the camp, maybe with low visibility, maybe getting more wood for, the fire, or they were trying to get away from something on the ground.
Right.
We're going to go through a lot of theories here.
With the limited information I have now, I'm like, okay, what are the possibilities here for what could have happened to them? Right? So I'm formulating a picture.
Oh, yeah.
I have pieces.
And I'm going to come at you with a lot of angles on this.
Because there's only one specific angle that I hate.
Is it Bigfoot?
God damn it, it's Bigfoot.
I'm going to go ahead and say right now, the Bigfoot one is so stupid.
It's not Bigfoot.
It's the only evidence is based off of one picture of what is obviously a man in a jacket.
Spoilers, every picture of Bigfoot is a man in a jacket.
Especially the pictures directly before and after that. You can see the
it's
shape
the man in the
guy's
jacket.
And then there's just like a blurry one of him next to a tree. And they were like, well, obviously.
Yeah.
It was Bigfoot.
It's 2024 and I still can't take a picture of a person in low light that ain't blurry. So it wasn't a Bigfoot.
I'm going to go ahead and say that right now before I get into
It's the first
theories.
time Brooks ever said that.
I know. Right? I'm always like, it's Bigfoot. There's one Bigfoot.
It's not Bigfoot.
Now, was it the KGB? We'll get into it. Between the tree and the camp, a few hundred feet away, the rescuers found 3 more bodies. Dyatlov.
Himself.
Yes. Kolmogorova. There we go. And Slobodin, who died in poses suggesting that they were attempting to return to the tent or get away from the tree. So they were all facing where the tent was and each like several yards away from each other in succession. Investigators originally said all of them had died of hypothermia, as they had no damage aside from superficial injuries to exposure. But then why did Doroshenko, one of the 2 found under the tree, have skin that was brownish purple and gray foamy liquid coming out of his mouth? Or the burns on Krivonashenko, or the chunk he bit out of his own hand? Not super what you think of when one is like hypothermia.
So,
Totes.
yeah, hypothermia, in extreme hypothermia, you do feel warm. So you think you're warm, but you're actually freezing. Yeah. And it's common, when I say common, I mean like it's noted that people that are in extreme final stages of hypothermia strip all their clothes off or attempt to strip their clothes off and try to go where it's cold because they think they're warm.
They're burning.
Because their cells are lysing, which means freezing and rupturing, and it doesn't feel good. Also,
so cold. It was probably like -30 that night. BT Dubs.
Yeah, as discussed in our previous conversation about Mount Everest, when you get incredibly cold, all you want to do is sleep. You're like, I just take a little nap.
Just for a second.
And then, boom, done.
It's never for a second.
It's forever.
It's not.
It's for forever.
There was no explanation as to why the group, all of which highly experienced at winter survival, not their first time.
Yeah, they
out.
did all seem quite comfortable.
Yeah, they're skiing, they got the gear, they're comfortable as a group.
Yeah.
Went to school with each other, knew each other. Why they had suddenly apparently fled into the dark and cold and were hurriedly trying to make do before succumbing to the elements. There was no real, why'd they leave the tent?
And also in such weird positions.
Yeah.
Why were 2 of them over here and 3 of them spaced out in a
hundreds
different
of feet away?
Yeah. Just why, how,
Right.
when you had a perfectly functional tent with a stove, with food, and all of your clothing, how did it come to be?
Yeah. And you may be asking, that's only 5 people.
Yeah, where are the other 4?
Where are the other 4? They found the other 4 months later. And the story gets weirder
Oh, God.
from there. In May, when the snow started melting, a local hunter came across a makeshift snow den about 250 feet from the tree where Yuri and Yuri were found. A deep hole was cut into the snow with branches and pieces of clothing covering the bottom. All of the clothing in the den had been cut or damaged, like half of a sweater or sweatpants missing a leg.
What?
An additional search was called when they find this den, and the 4 remaining victims were found lying together under 13 feet of snow.
Holy balls.
At the bottom of a creek. So there was running water where they made their little den, and then they went
Wow.
down to the rocks there. The autopsy reports show that these 4 did not die of exposure, but of massive injuries. At this point, foul play was being questioned and criminal investigators were brought in. 3 of the bodies had severe injuries ranging from crushed body cavities to broken ribs. One had a skull fracture so severe that foul play was ruled out because the damage was beyond human capabilities. They were like, even Bigfoot couldn't have did that. Too intense.
And we had a discussion about this a little bit earlier because, again, loyal gobs,
Yeah.
you could speculate. I mean, knowing where they were,
Yep.
and I'm not looking at a map right now and I can't see where it is and I don't have range maps, but there are other living things that you would consider could possibly inflict that kind of a damage. And obviously the first one that comes to mind is grizzly bears.
Yep.
Because crushed skulls is kind of their thing.
Yeah.
So right away my brain would be like, oh, okay, if you find a body in the Siberian taiga with severe skull damage and a crushed, chest cavity, your mind would go right to a bear.
Yeah.
However, bears leave evidence.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise when it's a bear, not what animal could have caused this?
You would also, claws.
Oh,
there was no
and
external.
And there's nothing that stops a grizzly from eating you when you're frozen. I mean, they're just going to eat you anyway.
Yeah.
You're not going to be intact.
They were intact, mostly. We'll get to it. So that was ruled out, right?
So percussive force or some kind of force so severe that a human being cannot do it, but not an animal.
They were more consistent with being in a car crash or being near an explosion.
What the fuck?
Is what was in the reports. Likely to being near a bomb going off.
Okay.
There was no soft tissue or external damage found.
What? You mean the outside of their body wasn't damaged?
So you're not seeing claw marks if it was a bear. You're not seeing someone was attacking this person and they went out here. But their crushed and broke it.
What?
Oh, it's weird. A careful inventory of the clothing that was recovered showed that some of the victims were wearing clothes taken or cut off the bodies of the others that had died before them.
What?
So like Yuri and Yuri,
But like, weren't their clothes still in the tent also?
the naked dudes
Yeah.
and stuff. So we're inventorying the clothes. We have pictures
Yeah.
and stuff of everything.
So were they naked because the other people took the clothes off of them? Or were they naked because they took their own clothes off?
Or were they naked after they had passed because they took their clothes off?
Yeah, I'm like, were they naked because other people cut the clothes off their dead bodies? Like what? What?
I know. So
I'm starting to feel like the
into
reason
it.
people go to Bigfoot is because it's easier to understand.
Because it's, you want to be like, this all sounds so insane, so I want to put it to the supernatural thing. Some people speculated at the time that the local Mansi people, shout out the reindeer herders, had attacked and murdered the group for encroaching on their lands. Several Mansi were even interrogated, but the investigation proved that the nature of their deaths did not support this theory. Only the hikers' footprints were visible from them going into the woods, and they showed no sign of struggle. Also, as we were watching Expedition Unknown, they were the first joining the volunteers to help the search party
"Oh shit,
for the people.
Those weird kids from the college disappeared. We told
Those
them it was not a
youths.
great idea.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't have gone out there."
No. So,
Also,
yeah.
go after the reindeer herders.
Wasn't the
crazy?
Mansi people.
No.
Like, ruled out.
Yeah.
So, now, your first guess here for many might be avalanche.
Or like a rock, an avalanche.
Some type of fall.
something heavy.
But
13 feet
one
of snow.
could think it would have flattened the whole campsite. Because, like, avalanche of why they would
Well,
have left the tent.
I mean, they take out, if there was an avalanche, not only would everything have been covered with snow, but, like, the avalanche would have taken out trees. It would have been,
Yeah,
like,
and
you,
there was-
you know when an avalanche has happened.
No damage to the tree line. No debris that you would typically
Yeah,
see.
you don't miss
When
an
all
avalanche.
No.
It's an avalanche.
Like, oh, it's crazy because there was a thin layer of snow on the tent.
Wild. It was
Right.
a
Yeah.
sneak avalanche.
So, also avalanche victims usually die of asphyxiation.
Yeah, because you suffocate underneath all
Yeah,
that.
which was not found on any of the autopsies. Also not common in avalanches. 2 of the hikers' eyes were missing, and one of them was missing her tongue. And 2 of the hikers' clothing had significant levels of radiation.
Okay, so,
I know you're going to hit me with the eyes and tongue.
well,
Do it now.
there's only one, like...
Oh, acid.
Well, there's only one rational explanation for the eyes and tongue, but there's no explanation for why it was just one person that didn't have their eyes and tongue, right? It was 3 people?
3.
Were they all
2
together?
It was the 3 that were in the by the creek.
So none of them, they all
Yeah.
lost their eyes and tongue?
So 2 of the guys missing eyes, and
Uh-huh.
then 1 of the women had no tongue.
Okay, so if you're looking at it from like a naturalist perspective, there is a pretty easy explanation for why that might be. Because when you die, scavengers that come to scavenge off your body, if you're freezing, the easiest things they go for, the easiest things to remove would be your eyes and your tongue. Things they can grab and pull or puncture or whatever.
Right.
So, like, scavengers go for the eyes and the tongue.
And they were the last to be found.
Yeah.
As well, because they were all found in May.
Yeah.
After the first few in February.
Yeah. So that would track if there's no other information related to the missing eyes and tongue.
I think that being thrown in there with all of the other weird
like,
shenanigans.
oh my
happening.
God.
The missing eyes!
Yeah.
Well, and it's 1959 Soviet Union autopsy reports that are like empty orbitals, and it's all worded very curiously.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways if you die. I mean, like, your eyes and your tongue aren't going to hold up, if there's a lot of ways that could go. But I mean, it's just eerie is what it is, you know.
Exactly. And the radiation.
Yeah. And I suppose also too, like, did the autopsy report state anything about the removal of the tongue? Like, did it look like it was going to be graphic? Did it look like it was ripped out? Did it look like it was incised?
It was not noted, but then there's speculation on this too, because on the woman, I think it was Zenaida, whose tongue was not there, that there was a lot of blood in her stomach as well. But then people fight on that because then it says red gooey mass. So like it could have been food.
Right, and especially
over time,
if she had
mixed
eaten
with blood.
If she had eaten meat. But also it's just weird because scavengers don't just take the eyes and the tongue. I mean, like, was her face all messed up?
Right.
There's a lot of information that, animals don't go, I'm just going to eat the eyes.
Right.
They're like
this specific
that's
thing.
not how it works. So
and I do have another theory on that.
Okay.
That
I'm curious about
a
that.
natural theory. So despite all of this weird, unusual evidence, the case, much like the Dyatlov Pass, went cold.
So cold.
Given the absence of a guilty party. The Soviet investigators stated that the cause of their deaths, they were due to an unknown compelling force which the hikers were unable to overcome. Is their official cause of death.
So death was their cause of death. Is basically the Soviet government. The Soviet government is like, death got him.
Right. But I'm like, are you writing a novel? Like what?
Unable to overcome. No.
Right.
That's it? We're just going to end it like that?
So, shockingly, the victims' families weren't satisfied with that. They started demanding answers from the Soviet government.
Well, hey.
However, the inquest officially ceased on May 28th, and all files were sent to a secret archive.
Excuse me, what? Of the same year? In 1959?
In the May that they found.
Okay, wait. Why? First of all, question one. Why would a death caused by natural circumstances of any kind have to be moved to a secret archive of the Soviet government?
It's curious, isn't it? You get why people are like, was it an avalanche?
I never heard of any secret avalanche, unless it was caused by some kind of weapons testing or something that wasn't supposed to be going on or whatever.
Right. So, in 1997,
Ooh,
to the
flash
future,
forward.
it was revealed that the negatives from Krivonashenko's camera were kept in the private archive of one of the lead investigators, Lev Ivanov. The film material was donated by Ivanov's daughter to the Dyatlov Foundation. The diaries of the hiking party fell into Russia's public domain in 2009.
You mean it wasn't available until 2009?
2009.
Where was it for the entire time prior to 2009?
Super secret. Super secret place.
Do we have any ability to prove that is the actual diary? That those are the actual words? Or do we just have a book that they say is the diary? They.
The royal they.
Yeah. Do we have no way. I mean, there's no like
I guess
the word for it, there's no provenance, right? There's no like this person took it off the body and then this thing went here and then it's just it was gone and then all of a sudden it's public domain.
I'm like, JK, now here it is.
It's giving our government saying aliens live in the ocean. Right? You know?
Look over here. Look at this thing.
Don't pay attention to the tariffs. Anyway.
Yeah. Right. But what even are they? I digress. In February.
Ketchup chips.
Ketchup!
Ketchup!
Drake's new lyrics.
Oh, Jesus. My boob just hit the microphone. So sorry. It's a common problem.
In February 2019.
Okay. Well, recent past.
Russian authorities reopened the investigation into the incident.
Why?
1 year before, Semyon Zolotaryov's body had been exhumed on the initiative of some overzealous Russian tabloid journalists.
Excuse me, what?
And contradictory results were obtained and difficult to authenticate. One report stating that the DNA analysis did not reveal any similarity to the DNA of living relatives and that someone was hiding under Zolotaryov's name after World War II. This is the older gentleman.
Wait a minute.
But again, this is like, picture if like TMZ dug up JFK. And then was like, we found some weird stuff, man. Also, he's Bat Boy.
I was going to say, are you talking Bat Boy tabloid level shit?
Level shit.
So,
yeah, they posted this whole thing of like, he's not who he says he is, man.
and for context, this was the oldest member of the party.
37 years
Who was
old.
substantially older.
Joined at the last minute.
Joined at the last minute, so was not a classmate.
But was affiliated with
the
UPI.
college.
Yeah. The institute. Yeah.
So why did they dig him up specifically instead of any other member of the party?
He had been the one most, and we'll get into the theories. Okay. He had been the one people most pointed to for like there was a KGB military connection. So they were like, he's not who he says. That's not even him. It's because.
So this tabloid is claiming that the DNA of the body they exhumed does not match the actual living relatives of the man who was that claiming to be.
Yes.
So there's that. They're essentially saying that wasn't who it was.
Yeah.
It was a person using the name.
And them doing this resulted in nothing. It ended with them being like, it was an avalanche or a hurricane and a crime has been discounted.
Death caused the death.
Yes. Mysterious death. Anyway. But literally.
Huh. That's fun. And that was 2019 they did that?
2019. So theories.
Okay, let's get into it.
As we've said before, Bigfoot.
It's off the list.
It's dumb.
It's off the table.
It's off the list.
Don't even talk about it. No one
It was
speculate.
a man by a tree.
Probably peeing.
Me who wants to believe in everything.
If even Brooke is
like, that's dumb.
That's absolutely not Bigfoot.
Stupid.
It's not a Bigfoot.
It's terrible.
As Sir Edmund Hillary also used to say, no, it ain't no fucking Bigfoot. God damn.
Okay. So theories.
All right. What happened to these people?
Number 1. KGB members / radioactive clothes.
I mean, that radioactive clothes thing is kind of weird.
So the group were all they were all UPI students or connected to the institute in some way, like faculty or, like alumni, whatever. UPI was constantly turning out recruits for nuclear research and for the Soviet military.
Okay.
Some theorize. Sound like ancient aliens now.
Ancient alien theorists say.
Some suggest that a few of the hikers were KGB and were on wait for it. And were on a mission to uncover a secret cell of CIA operatives.
In the middle of nowhere?
Bum bum. During the Cold War, a favorite Soviet tactic was to plant radioactive material in places it didn't belong to set the Americans on a wild goose chase. Some have proposed that if there were KGB members among the group, they may have been sent there to deliver radioactive clothing to CIA agents. Again, I'm taking you through all the weird theories.
I'm here for I'm here for the ride.
This may sound bananas, but this is why some may think this. The oldest member of the group, Semyon Zolotaryov,
Who may or may not be him.
age 37, who may not be him.
May not be him, according to British tabloids. I don't know why I went right for Britain. It's Russia.
Russia's TMZ, who was exhumed. He joined at the last minute. He was a combat vet in the Soviet military, and he worked with the NKVD, the Soviet secret police, after being in the military, before transferring to the physics department of UPI.
Okay.
So he was a faculty member there.
Sure.
He worked in Moscow at a top secret scientific facility known as P.O. Box 3394, where they were...
Wait a minute, just a P.O. box?
Developing nuclear testing.
Why was he out there with those children? What was he doing?
I'll go! Yuri Krivonishenko, one of the two founders of the tree,
Yuris.
worked at P.O. Box 404/10, which the KGB, these addresses just sound ominous, where a massive nuclear accident occurred in 1957. At least 3 of the group had known KGB connections. Unbeknownst to the rest of their group, could they have been on a mission to deliver certain radioactive samples to someone and document their mission? Cameras, journals. All of the hikers had cameras and journals, but when Alexander Kolovatov's body was found, his journal and camera were missing, and he was the 3rd suspected person.
His journal and camera were missing? They didn't even find it?
Or it wasn't released in 2009.
But for sure everybody had cameras and journals?
Because in the pictures that we do have,
You can see
like
other people's equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen the pictures and there's more than one camera.
Oh, yeah.
But they didn't recover
From him or the tent.
I mean, it's possible that it got lost, but why would it be lost?
Maybe convenience, maybe
What the hell?
maybe accident, maybe something else. 2, orbs and weather phenomena.
Orbs? What kind of orbs?
Oh, yeah.
What are we talking here?
This theory suggests that the reason the tent was cut from the inside
Okay.
was not to escape, but to set up a camera on a makeshift tripod. Dyatlov had experimented with telescopes at the university and was interested in spaceflight and astronomy. The local Mansi people had reported seeing glowing golden orbs in the sky that same night. Another hiking group camping 50 kilometers away also reported orange floating orbs in the same place at the same time. There are even recovered photos from one of the cameras that show some type of light in the sky, which I will show you in a moment.
Light in the sky.
It is open to interpretation.
Okay.
Which
How
is
big-
very loosely.
Okay, so I've seen pictures of the tent, right? Both before and after. How big of a cut was made in the tent?
So there are multiple, and then there's a big one in the side too. So it looks, which I have other theories on that too.
Because the whole telescope camera tripod thing doesn't hold up. You're not going to cut a giant fucking hole. Just put the camera outside.
That's like, I think, just maybe the lean into the orb.
The orbs.
Shit.
Okay.
Where it's like, people probably just trying to tie the tent in. I'm not saying I even agree with the KGB or the orb one.
Well, I mean, no.
Yeah,
I don't
no.
have any
Let's
evidence
see.
to pick
Why are you cutting
one.
your tent open?
You would never.
Yeah, no.
Not when it's minus 30.
Just go.
I'd be like, oh, you're on your own out there, camera, with the orbs.
Yeah. So, Lev Ivanov, lead investigator, right? He said, I suspected at the time, and I'm almost sure now, that these bright flying spheres had a direct connection to the group's death. He also reported that the treetops in the area were burned above a certain height.
Wait a minute. Bright flying spheres in the sky at night, and the trees are damaged.
Yep.
I can't wait to see this picture because there's a lot of things.
It's not a good picture.
But there's a lot of things that could fly through the sky at night. We're living through watching it on the news every single fucking day right now.
Especially during that time period.
Oh.
In 1990, after Ivanov retired, he published an article claiming that the Soviet government forced him to abandon this theory, and they removed everything from the report that mentioned UFOs, orbs, or anything unusual. He insisted the deaths were due to heat rays or balls of fire associated with orbs. The very last photo taken with one of the hikers' cameras. So there's the last photos of them, right? Like of their gear. The very last photo on one of the cameras appears to be some type of light source taken in the middle of the night.
Okay.
Could it be a UFO? Or a candle?
I mean,
Or a flashlight?
do you have a picture?
Yeah.
Give me... What the hell? It's a campfire in the distance. What is that supposed to be?
Killer orbs!
It's a campfire. I tell you, it's like a fire in the distance with smoke or something coming off of it. There's literally no way to know what that is.
Yeah.
There's
so
no,
it's easy
there's
to...
no... What the... What is that? What is this? Look at that. That ain't shit.
No, it's because it's so nondescript.
Yeah.
So, of course, people are going to be like, well, what you don't see is the angle
That
of
could
the
be
light source."
literally anything.
It could... Literally.
I can come up with a list of 50 things that it could
Right.
be right now. And none of them are an alien orb or a fireball or a death laser.
Yes. Another theory along these lines is that a rare weather event generated infrasound.
Infrasound.
Sound waves with frequencies below the lower limit of human audibility.
You mean like an elephant? Just saying. Sorry, I didn't.
They're in the woods.
Just forest. They encountered a mammoth. That's what happened. It was a long lost woolly mammoth. It stomped them, crushing their skulls, and it scared them with the infrasound, thus imploding their lungs and making their stomach into red goo.
New theory.
Mammoth.
Mammoths.
That's what the government's been trying to keep under wraps this whole time. Russia's had mammoths this entire time.
They
That's,
successfully cloned them.
they probably did. They wanted to use them in war or something.
Tea.
I don't know. I just made that up right now. So
I feel like that's how a lot of these theories are.
I feel like I could
dude?
make a YouTube video talking about how the Dyatlov Pass was actually caused by a mammoth, and people would eat it the fuck up.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely good. So they're ancient astronaut theorists
Oh
suggest.
my god, no.
No. But basically, some have thought that this infrasound caused the hikers to suddenly become disoriented and anxious. Donnie Eicher, American film producer and author,
Okay.
who spent 5 years researching the incident and visited the site, believes that a wind phenomenon called Carmen Vortex Street could have produced...
Carmen San Diego what? What do you
literally,
mean?
I
Carmen Vortex
looked up if it was
Street?
actually street.
Okay, what is it? What
Yeah.
does it do? How it be?
Could have produced a terrifying and powerful sound, which could produce irrational fear in humans. If hit with infrasound, the group may have fled the tent and fallen victim to the cold before they realized what was happening. So he's basically like, what if a cyclone of wind made him go, well, and then they just cut out of the tent and were like, ha-ha, and ran away. That's his theory. After 5 years of research. And he went there. A wind phenomenon.
I think maybe a mammoth is more likely than the street San Diego Carmen around the world. I mean, I'm not bashing this weather event, but also, really, man? That's your 5 years?
So
5 years.
wait for this one.
Bracing.
The movie Frozen. What does that have to do with
Don't
this?
you bring Elsa into this?
You may ask.
Not that little salamander. Frozen 1 or 2?
Frozen 1.
Okay.
But I love that little salamander.
What's his name? Bruni?
I can't remember, but he's so cute.
Yeah. He's cute.
He lights the trees on fire. And he's... That's Frozen 2.
That's what caused the
amazing.
third-degree burns on his leg.
Oh my god.
The fire salamander.
Elsa
She
had
made
wind
the vortex.
And they were like, ah.
They got caught in the middle of a supernatural battle.
They didn't want to
And they
build
got
a
crushed by
snowman.
those little rock trolls. That's what crushed their bones.
Them. But no external injuries.
Right? They just
Crush injury.
crush injuries. That's weird.
So the movie Frozen.
Okay.
It'll make sense.
Will it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd say no,
You're
but,
like,
but it will.
It will.
So, while watching the movie Frozen, scientist Johann Gaum noticed that Disney had created a very realistic snow movement in that movie. He contacted and worked with the studio animators
Get it, animators.
to develop a model that shows how the group could have been hit by what's called a delayed slab avalanche.
Tell me more.
See?
I'm
like, come on, Frozen.
Okay, so I'm familiar with the concept of a delayed slab avalanche.
So
Tell me more. Tell me more.
this kind of avalanche occurs when you affect the warm, wet snow at the bottom of a slope. This causes the entire face of snow to eventually move at once. Think about two books stacked on top of each other. You could tilt them and they'll stick together until you reach a certain, certain angle. And the top book will slide off.
Skiers cause it a lot when they do backcountry.
Yeah. So, an avalanche only requires a 20-degree slope to trigger it.
So slight.
The Dyatlov camp was built at 23 degrees.
Okay, so it definitely fits within the parameters.
So, Gaum believes that when they cut into the snow to build their tent, it started a countdown. They initiated a chain reaction of micro disturbances that took a few hours to propagate.
Oof.
Trapped under the slab, the group might have panicked and cut their way out of the tent. The injuries sustained by some of the group would have been consistent with another slab hitting them at full force.
Okay.
Johann's paper leaves out everything that could have happened after, like the missing highs and the tongue and stuff. Now, in their journals, the group wrote about howling winds, right? And you can see in the last photos of them alive, crazy windy, low visibility. These winds, thought by the same team, likely katabatic winds, which fall down a slope and quickly gain speed due to gravity. They're also, or can be, hurricane force once they gain that speed. So the hikers cut their camp into the snow, which could have disturbed the slab. Then katabatic winds start blowing snow on top of the slab above the tent. And over the course of hours, the weight of the snow above the camp reached critical mass, causing the entire slab to fall. Using this Disney snow animation from Frozen, it was shown that even a small avalanche, maybe 15 by 15 feet, would have been enough to cover the camp, but not enough snow that the rescue team would have noticed, especially since they didn't get there until almost a month later. So, UFOs, KGB aside, this is what could have happened.
Okay.
Right?
This seems to have much more
I had to hit you with some,
credulity.
I had to hit you with some fun ones
You did.
first.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Orbs.
the slab avalanche hits, covering them in a few feet of snow. The 9 hikers cut their way out of the tent. Why leave their supplies behind? Well, it was discovered that they had a second stash of supplies within the nearby tree line.
Oh.
So they retreat into the trees to start a fire. The young trees at the bottom of the slope, probably icy and wet, so they climbed up the tree in search of dry wood. Not Bigfoot, you know? See, you're rubbing off on me. But I'm still going to hit you with KGB and UFOs.
I'm ready. That's all right.
But with temps below 0, they had very little time. The 2 with the least amount of clothing, Yuri and Yuri, were probably the first to go.
Yeah.
So especially if they slab hits, they leave unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And it was showing that they had food that was in there. All of their stuff had packed away. They were probably, they're in their undies. They're ready to like go to bed or whatever.
If they were buried under snow,
like you got to get out right away.
You're not going to think. I mean, if you panic,
right,
you're not going to be like,
I need my jacket,
or you whatever. Simply cannot get it. It depends. Right. I mean, yeah.
So, they were probably first to go. The burn skinned from being desperately close to the fire, not feeling themselves being burned.
Oh yeah,
as hypothermia sets in. You're probably like in.
You can't even. Yeah, you're in it. You're physically in the fire.
Krivonashenko likely becoming delirious and perhaps biting his hand, maybe testing if he could feel it.
Oh, he probably was.
If he was numb,
he just bit a chunk right
and
off.
just bit right down.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on here.
Oh.
So the remaining 7.
I'm just
right through his right hand, just and it was found in his mouth, so like couldn't have happened too far.
He
before.
He was gonna. Oh,
yeah,
that's bad.
The remaining 7 could have cut clothes away from their friends, or what they could to keep warm after this. Especially, again, low visibility. Maybe you can't find where your stuff is stashed in the tree line.
Yeah.
Or maybe you 3 of the group, including Dyatlov, trying to make it back to the tent, were possibly unable due to loose snow and the steep incline. Because, again, they're on, Mount Death or whatever, Dead Mountain.
Oh, God.
So they potentially freeze to death in the struggle uphill. The remaining 4 decide to build a snow shelter for the night. They find deep snow in a ravine a couple 100 feet away. They pick a spot near a fast-running stream that never freezes. This stream cuts away the snow above their shelter, causing the roof to collapse. They're thrown onto the rock stream bed and buried under 10 to 15 feet of snow. Snow generally weighs about 20 pounds per cubic foot. That would have felt like a tank falling on you, causing severe crush injuries.
Yeah.
The missing eyes and tongue, one could guess. A wasset,
Clearly.
obviously.
A snow wasp.
Or small scavenger, or simply 3 months of decomposition near running water.
Yeah, I mean, the soft bits are going to be the first to go.
Yeah. But what about the radiation?
Well, there's that.
The lanterns they used, found at the site, contained small amounts of thorium,
Okay.
which is radioactive,
Okay.
and at least 2 of the hikers worked at nuclear facilities, which helped clean up after an accident, again, that was almost, if not worse than Chernobyl, was the Mayak disaster in 1957.
Never even heard of it.
Exactly. Where an improperly stored underground tank of high-level liquid nuclear waste exploded.
Excuse me?
Exploded.
Ah, yes.
Contaminating thousands of square kilometers of land, now known as the Eastern Ural Radioactive Trace, or the EURT.
That's fine. Just keep swaths of radioactive. That's fine.
The matter was covered up, and few, either inside or outside the Soviet Union, were even aware of the full scope until the year of our Lord, 1980. Happened in 57.
Can you imagine the shit that we don't know?
Oh my
has
God.
gone on? The meteorite, like the meteor strike, and the shit
It's beyond.
that we will never know.
No.
Or,
That we couldn't even
You know,
guess at if we tried, probably.
I mean, one can hope that a different style government eventually takes hold.
Yeah.
But can you imagine the shit we could find out if a government with any kind of transparency at all, like,
In any developed nation. Like,
man,
it's crazy.
that is nuts.
Yeah. So that could be a reason, perhaps. Wow. For the radioactive material. So let's go on the other side.
Yeah.
Say there wasn't an avalanche.
Okay. Say there
Right?
was not. Say it was perfectly fine.
Say there wasn't an avalanche.
Stable snow.
Why the hell did they get out of the tent?
Why
This
did
is,
they?
again, another realistic realm theory.
Okay.
If you look at photos of the tent, you can see an exhaust pipe sticking out
For a stove.
from the internal stove.
Yep.
A homemade design of one Igor Dyatlov.
Oh, did we not test our homemade design, Igor?
We know it was used the night of the incident due to the cooked pieces of ham and bacon. Mm-hmm. They were eating good.
So they used it.
Yeah, that were discovered in the tent. So we know it was used. What if, after disassembling the stove and removing the exhaust, the embers inside the stove were accidentally reignited? With the exhaust pipe removed, the smoke could have filled the tent within seconds.
Okay.
What if they cut holes in the tent to vent the smoke? And when that didn't work, they slashed open the side and escaped in panic. Could that also explain the burns on Yuri on his leg? Because there was another photo of Yuri where in his jacket, the sleeve of it is like scorched from it, from being with it. So, and that's just another
maybe
like throw
Yeah.
a part out there where it's like, we will most likely never definitively know what happened, but some theories are more likely than others. Perhaps.
maybe.
Right? So,
Again, it's like you try to put yourself in the mind of these people. So, like, if you do any kind of outdoor, like, camping in inclement weather, or if you've looked into it and you look at, like, the stoves that are available, the structure of them is essentially the same as it's always been. We've just made them more light and compact and foldable and, blah, blah, blah. But, like, the idea has always been the same. So there's definitely stuff that can go wrong with stoves when you're
Right.
working in like a canvas winter environment in a tent.
Or if you're setting up camp quickly
Yeah.
or something. And
I mean, however, if you have a shelter and the shelter is your only thing keeping you alive, and that bad boy fills with smoke,
panic.
yeah, you would just open the tent. I mean, you would just open the tent. You don't have to watch every season of Alone to know that you would just open the tent.
But again, there's so many things where most people wouldn't think they would walk, 40 people wouldn't walk past a dude
Exactly.
on a mountain
You
who's
don't
dying.
know what
don't
you
know
would
until
do
it happens to
until
you.
it happens. There's a million.
So-
One person could have panicked and put a bunch of holes in the tent.
Exactly.
Who didn't know.
It's like, we're all fucked now.
Yep.
Now we have to go
Yep.
to our other supplies
There's
down here.
a million things that could have gone. His arm of his jacket could have touched the stove and set on fire. Like there's
Right.
so many things that could have gone wrong, and you can't predict the behavior of everyone all the time. You can't say, "Oh, you wouldn't have done that." You really have no idea. You don't know.
You don't know until you're put in that exact situation.
It is, all jokes aside, but like when you watch television shows like Alone or Naked and Afraid or whatever, and you're just doing the whole I'm on the couch, like, it's not that hard to start a fire, Jerry. Like, use the stick. Are you out naked in the jungle surrounded by sand fleas and 10,000 mosquitoes? Do you know what it's like? Because I certainly don't.
Couldn't do the bugs.
The bugs are what get you every time.
The bugs would get me. But
No.
also, people who can't start fire with flint.
I mean, if you're in a rainforest, I get it.
Rainforest,
If you're in a rainforest, I get it. If you're in sub-Saharan Africa, I don't get it because everything is dry. But anyway, I'm gonna move on from Naked and Afraid because it's a whole thing.
But
It helps that I
It's
have
true.
a significant other who constantly makes me try to start fires in inclement weather to practice.
you do that a lot. You send me photos of them.
We go out, and then this has been a hobby of
He's
his.
testing your preparedness.
Yeah, since he was a child, this has been a hobby of his.
To stay in the woods.
Yeah, to be like, it's pouring rain. I want to see how easy it is. What do I need to do to start a fire?
That's a really good hobby to have, though.
He does it all the time.
It'll come in handy.
You marry yourself someone that keeps pocket birch bark.
I can't. Joel's allergic.
That's right. Well, and I'm so sorry. I knew.
Tape, though.
I took a video of it, and I will find the video because we were hanging up our winter jackets, and I just knew. I was like, if I go through his jacket pockets, I'm going to find a pocket that has birch bark in it.
Hell yeah.
Because I know one time we were out and ran into a naturalist that I knew when we were at the Saxon Bog, shout out, birding center, and she was trying to start a fire. And we were just visitors. We weren't like working there, and she couldn't get the fire started because whoever had worked there had left the firewood outside. And my husband is like, here, blurp, and hands her a whole mass of perfectly dried birch bark. And she looks up at him and she goes, you just have this? And he went, you never know when you're going to need to start a fire. And she went, this is the best thing anyone's ever given me. So I get it. I get the fire preparedness part of it because things go wrong with fire. Even when you think you have a decent fire, even if you think everything's going great, stuff just breaks and stops working.
Especially perhaps when there's crazy wind.
Insane wind and cold.
Vortexes and aliens.
Cold and orbs and mammoths and slab avalanches and the KGB.
Took me out. For real. So, today, this pass has become a popular tourist destination.
Blows my mind.
People come from all over the world to follow the group's footsteps and to see where the tent once stood. And people say prayers at the stream and leave flowers under the tree, which I actually, again, kind of like when they sat
very
with green
sweet.
boots.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the intention behind that is pure.
I think it is.
I would like to hope that it is.
And I think it's the human, if you really think about it, it's the human idea of like when you sit and think about the cold, right? In the dark, and the idea that these people all died in the cold, in the dark.
It's lonely.
it's very lonely, and nobody really wants to go like that.
You want to go in the warm and the light.
Yep. The idea,
It's literally the opposite.
yeah, the idea that someone slipped away
Yeah.
in the dark and the cold is so lonely, and you don't want them to be forgotten or to think that they are forgotten.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. And I do think you're right. I think it's out of like a care.
Yeah.
You know, we care that this happened to you.
And especially, I think, too, with Everest and with the Dyatlov Pass, like, it's a camaraderie, I think, too, where it's paying respects to someone who came before you, who gave it all, whether of their choice or not,
Yeah.
for the thing that you both love,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And just, like, probably recognizing the humility within that of, like, this could be me.
Yeah, and that this environment is not tameable. This is not something that we as people can surmount.
Yeah.
We will never be stronger than it.
Nature is metal.
Yep, never. And the cold, I think the cold is terrifying to people.
Yeah.
More so than heat ever will be. I think the cold is incredibly scary, and it's always associated with darkness. And I mean, because we live in a place that's cold and dark for a majority of the year, I feel a strong affinity with that. You know, like northern Minnesota is not necessarily the warmest place in the world for 7 months out of the year. So I get it.
Yeah. But I think there is a part of it, too, to some respect here with Prince. It keeps the crazies out. It keeps some of the crazies in.
It keeps some in.
Honest.
It's a different kind of crazy,
It
if you
is.
know what I mean.
Maybe it's a crazy that we're just used to.
Well,
We're acclimated to, like, the weather.
well,
Yeah.
I
don't know about that so much.
It's changed a little bit. You know,
This is true.
I do believe the farther north you go, the less bullshit you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Because, again, it weeds them out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's just, you got to be neighbors up there no matter what.
Yeah.
You got to support each other.
And I don't know if other people, I mean, if you're not from a place that has winter, and like real winter, like so cold, trees explode for
Like
no reason winter.
-60 wind chill.
Yep.
12 feet of snow.
Yep. Where
Winter.
you go outside and the sound of touching the snow is this weird cracking thing.
You know what I've noticed we hit this week with winter? When you walk outside and your whole body goes,
Yep.
the
Yep.
hunch. That's what I was sitting on the couch, I was like, I'm hunched.
Yep.
Like, put it back.
Yep. It's a different thing, and it's interesting that both of us selected winter topics for our subsequent episodes because it's such a big part of where we live, and sometimes the transition into it is very difficult.
Yeah.
And the idea of seeking out adventure in that cold in some ways is like fighting against.
It's rebelling
It
against
is.
it.
It is rebelling against it and saying we're going to go out and do all this stuff in the cold, even though we know how dangerous it is, because ultimately it's the cold.
Yeah.
In all of the circumstances we discuss, the killer is the cold.
Yep.
And that, I think, is the most interesting because you can die here in the cold. You don't have to be an adventurer.
It's happened.
It happens every, not every year, but I mean, it happens
Like,
a lot.
I can name several instances,
People that live here, when you drive through the neighborhoods on different, you keep an eye out and make sure nobody is left outside.
Especially in the college areas.
And where you know there are unhoused people.
Yep.
You know, and when you see police officers driving around checking places where people stay and try to get out of the weather, it just resonates with you that like, I don't want to be out and I don't want to die in the cold.
No.
I don't want to go in the cold. And you just feel for all the souls that did, I think.
Yeah.
And these 9 were in their 20s, with the exception of one of them.
Yeah.
And the idea that
But
nature...
even still 37.
I know.
That's
Younger than
not-
me. So...
like, fuck. That's
know.
not...
It's
That's not anything.
It's kind of a
And-
crazy thing to think about.
But again, that's where I appreciate the kind of honoring of them, as morbid as it can be too.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're walking the walk and you're out there doing the fucking thing and you're taking the time to be like, hey, I'm gonna pay respects while I'm here to do this, at least, that's one part of the culture that's still good in that community, I would say.
It is.
Than
And
walking past people on a fucking mountain.
Yeah. And I do think there's differences, like there's differences in the way people go about exploring the world. And it can become so achievement driven that you
ego.
Yep, that you want to be Victor Vescovo, and I'm here to tell you right now, ain't nobody but Victor Vescovo. I mean, he's been up top Everest.
Is he going to that new deepest place in the
Oh, I'm sure he is.
ocean?
I better
He's probably
get on.
planning his trip.
Better get on his social media because
That'll be in the next step.
Can you imagine if somebody beat him to it? He would have
He'd
them
find
killed.
a deeper place.
He would dig a hole below where they went.
He'd contact the aliens. I'm sure that he's in communications with down there.
Yeah.
Because they've told us they're in the ocean.
Maybe he went down there
Maybe he's an alien.
to deliver nuclear materials to the aliens in the water.
Such a wild theory.
I mean, there was
it's a
some
stretch.
But I mean,
But
I get why it was so fascinating to people, because the idea that you would do the things that they did, but you don't actually know why they did what you're trying to reverse engineer their psychology, like their mental state. Why would you do this thing? But also you found them so much later.
yeah.
So the conditions have all changed. You don't know what it looked like.
And the government being very sus at the time, the
That
investigators questioning the government, the certain people within the group who had connections to the KGB, the whole group having connection to young communist parties. There's a lot that if you're looking for zebras, you're going to find them,
Yeah.
but maybe it was just horses,
Right.
or donkeys.
Yeah, like,
Perhaps,
there's
but-
a lot of information we don't have. Like, how common was it for people to be employed at these different locations? Like, were a lot of people working at these P.O. box addresses? Or was this an uncommon thing? Like, we just don't have the context to back up the more sus theories. But then, ironically, the Frozen movie theory...
I just loved that aspect of
The
it.
fact that someone, like, what was he a physicist or a scientist or
a Belgian scientist.
Okay.
He
the fact
saw
that
the
he
Frozen
saw
movie
the
and was
movie
like,
and
that
was like,
snow is so realistic.
you know what that would be sick for?
Yeah.
Doing a resurgence on the Dyatlov tragedy.
Yeah.
Like,
And he worked with them to do a whole reanimation of like where their tent was and what it would look like with the slab coming down. And he's like, this is
Shout
totally what could have happened.
out animation.
Yeah.
So that's
Johann
fascinating.
Gaum.
Go Johann.
Come on.
Johann.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. And then the idea that, like, and again, this is one of the Commodore's favorite things, like, could it be this imaginary thing that we've decided, or could it be a thing that we know really happens that we can say potentially could have happened?
Right.
Like, are slab avalanches a thing? Absolutely. Do they happen all the time? Yes, they do. Yeah. Was there evidence that could support that? Yes, there was.
Were
so
the conditions right for it?
So yes, it's very interesting, and I'm sure it definitely, in my opinion, of course, I would say it leans more towards that being a tragic accident that took the lives of these 9 people.
I would say so, but then you had even said something like when we were kind of in between restarting too, where it's like, what if something else caused the slab?
Yeah, I mean,
avalanche?
because again,
it's not to say that there wasn't a lot of interesting military choices happening
right?
during that time, and with shutting the case down so early.
There's a
and
lot
with different connections and
Yeah.
with the questioning of investigators on it
Yep.
and very vague autopsy descriptions.
There's a lot of questions, and then it
Yeah.
goes, is it out of the realm of possibility that they were like wrong place, wrong time?
Right.
And then
exactly.
and then the government, like let's get a little wild here. Wrong place, wrong time. Something was being tested or used or whatever, and either
that could explain the orbs.
that could explain the orbs, or it could explain the avalanche being caused, or it could explain, and because if a slab avalanche killed these kids, why in the holy hell would the Soviet Union government give a shit about the report of their death and what was described? Why would they even care? So that is a genuinely surprising thing. Like, why is everything
Why was it secret?
secret? Why was it secret? Why did anybody care?
So that's where I think there is room for questioning circumstances around it for sure.
Because
but
that's unusual.
do I think
Why
it
would
was
you care?
Bigfoot? No. But
It's never Bigfoot.
I think there's things we don't know and may never know surrounding it.
I mean, I think that's incredibly likely.
Yeah.
That because we have no ability to recreate, there's no access to evidence. There's no, it's going to be one of those things that we never really know. Unless there's some kind of weird secret diary or photos.
Right.
Unless more evidence emerges, it's going to be one of those things that we're left never knowing what
Another
actually happened.
Secret camera where you can see
that
Bigfoot
would
close up in 4K.
Rippling back muscles.
And I chased him into the woods.
And then I got
in my
third-degree
underwears.
burns on my legs.
And then I bit my hand because I was so scared.
Then he broke all the branches, and then we died.
Yeah. So I did have one of the Yuris. Before they left on their journey, Kravanishenko, Yuri, third-degree burns, wrote a poem addressing the entire group.
Yuri.
And this is translated, obviously, so I don't know if the rhyming scheme was different.
Fair.
Probably in Russian. But here we go. Here's wishing you camps pitched on mounts afar, routes to hike over, ranges untamed, packs that, as ever, rest lightly on your backs, and weather that smiles upon your quest, and let your footprints trace winding tracks across the map of Russia.
My heart.
Right, just him on a train.
Yuri.
It's like, and here I will
It's wild to know what happened to him.
look at that little baby child. That is him right there.
That little baby face guy.
That little baby face. That's the whole group.
Oh, he was just a kid.
Tater tot writing poems. Writing
Just
little bitty poems.
Just a kid. And then there's that weirdo with the mustache.
Hello, fellow youths.
Hello. Fellow high schoolers. That's the vibes that guy gives off. Yeah.
Looking like he's going to come out with a bowler hat or something.
Like,
You ever heard
goo.
of P.O. Box? Yeah.
He does give severe villain vibes.
It's suspicious.
It's suspicious.
It's weird.
Maybe he was like the staff sponsor for their club. You know how we
Right.
always had to have a teacher
Yeah.
that just
And he's
sat
in the
there all
physics
disgruntled.
department.
But those
Yeah.
teachers normally didn't volunteer to go on a 200-kilometer trek into the
Right.
Siberian wilderness past the gulag.
Bruh. And again, like even with the gulag and everything, I picked like the wildest theories.
Those
I
are
could
pretty
kind of-
wild, yeah.
Aside from Bigfoot, which I just didn't even want to address. Yeah. So, yeah. Again, to all of the the lives lost on the mountains.
To adventurers everywhere,
Yeah.
here and not here.
To you.
To you.
And you know what to do.
As always,
Stay weird.
stay weird.
Bye.
Bye.
Here, I'll put it in the camera. Here we go. It's the lighting. It's too bright. Look at it.